Have you ever felt completely alone? Like you're walking through life with no one by your side? I remember times when I looked around and wondered why everyone else seemed connected while I felt invisible. Those moments when you reach out, but no one reaches back. It's a painful place to be, but I want you to know something important today. This season of loneliness isn't a mistake. God doesn't make mistakes. When you feel isolated, when relationships fade and connections seem impossible to find, there's something deeper happening. God is working in these quiet moments, preparing you for something you can't yet see. In this journey we're about to take together, we'll explore why some of us walk a solitary path for seasons of our life. We'll look at what God might be doing in those lonely spaces and how this time of separation isn't punishment, it's preparation. If you've been wondering why you feel so alone, why friendships seem hard to maintain, or why relationships feel out of reach, I believe you'll find comfort in understanding God's greater purpose for this season. Let's discover together why sometimes the chosen ones walk alone, and how God uses these times of solitude to strengthen us, heal us, and prepare us for the unique calling He has placed on our lives. There is meaning in your aloneness, and I promise you, you are never truly alone. Have you noticed how some people drain your energy while others fill you up? When you walk with God, when you carry His light, not everyone can stay in your presence. It's not because you're unworthy of friendship. It's because the energy you carry is different. Some people will admire you from a distance. Some will be inspired by you. But not everyone has the capacity to walk alongside you. This isn't something you've caused or something you can change. When God sets you apart, your spirit operates on a different frequency, one that aligns with His divine purpose. Many people you meet simply won't understand the depth of your journey. Think about Jesus. He walked among crowds, healed the sick, performed miracles. Yet when He faced His hardest moments, even His closest disciples couldn't stay by His side. The Son of God Himself experienced isolation, but He never let it shake His faith because He knew His mission was greater than human approval. This is why certain relationships fade and friendships become distant. It's not that you've done something wrong. It's simply God removing distractions so you can focus on what truly matters. If you've ever felt drained after giving too much, if you've poured your heart out only to receive little in return, God sees it all. He knows the strength it takes to keep loving, to keep shining, even when no one pours back into you. That's why He calls you to rest in Him. You don't have to chase relationships or strive for approval. Trust God to align you with those who will uplift and encourage you in His perfect timing. When you're someone set apart by God, you often find yourself giving encouragement, wisdom, and strength to others. People are naturally drawn to the light within you. They seek your prayers, your counsel, your comfort. But what happens when you're the one in need? When your spirit grows weary? When your heart longs for someone to pour into you the way you've poured into others? You might look around and find no one standing in the gap for you. This isn't a sign that you've failed or a reason to despair. It's simply part of the calling God has placed on your life. Even Jesus knew this weight of loneliness. He healed the sick, restored the broken, and gave hope to the lost. Yet in His greatest hour of need, His closest disciples couldn't even stay awake to pray with Him. He was no stranger to isolation, but He never allowed it to shake His faith. Instead, He turned to the Father. When God chooses you, He calls you to rely more deeply on Him. If your kindness isn't always reciprocated, understand that God is teaching you to draw strength from Him. People will come and go, but the Lord remains steadfast. The world may not always recognize your worth, but heaven does. There's power in solitude when it's spent in God's presence. This isolation isn't punishment, but preparation. God is deepening your roots, strengthening your spirit, and refining your faith. Though few may understand you, remember you're never truly alone. The God who formed you, called you, and set you apart walks beside you even now. One of the deepest reasons chosen ones experience loneliness is because God is working on something inside them, something that must be healed before they can step into the fullness of their purpose. Many of us carry unseen wounds, scars from the past that linger in our hearts. Maybe it was rejection, betrayal, or disappointments that left you feeling unworthy of love. These hidden burdens create barriers, making it difficult to form deep and lasting connections with others. But hear me clearly, God doesn't leave his children broken. He is the great physician, the one who sees the wounds others can't see, and he alone has the power to heal them. Often, he allows seasons of solitude not to punish us, but to restore us. When everything is quiet, when distractions are removed, that's when we can finally hear his voice. That's when he speaks into the depths of our soul, showing us the areas that need his gentle touch. The Bible tells us he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. If you feel like no one understands your pain, know this: God is near to those who are hurting. He's working on you, shaping you, preparing you for relationships that won't drain you, but strengthen you. This healing season isn't a curse, it's a blessing. It's God's way of ensuring that when the right people enter your life, you'll be ready to receive them without the weight of past wounds holding you back. Don't rush this process. Don't see your solitude as a sign that something is wrong with you. Embrace this time with God, for he is building you into the person he has called you to be. One of the greatest reasons chosen ones remain alone is because God's timing is different from ours. We live in a world that rushes, that pushes us to seek companionship just to fill a void. But God doesn't work that way. He isn't interested in temporary fixes or shallow connections. He's preparing something greater, something that perfectly aligns with his purpose for your life. The Bible tells us he makes everything beautiful in its time. This means God isn't withholding love from you. He's shaping it, refining it, ensuring that when it comes, it will be exactly as he intended. You aren't meant to settle for relationships that drain you or pull you away from your calling. God is preparing someone who will walk with you in faith, someone who will not only love you, but also strengthen you in your purpose. I know waiting is difficult. The heart longs for companionship, for someone to share life's burdens and joys. But this season of waiting isn't meant to break you. It's meant to build you. During this time, God is refining your spirit, strengthening your faith, and ensuring that when the right person arrives, you'll be ready. Don't be discouraged. Don't look at others around you and feel like you're missing out. Trust in God's perfect timing. When he brings the right person into your life, it won't feel forced or uncertain. It will be a love rooted in faith, in strength, and in his divine purpose. Remember that what God is preparing for you is worth the wait. He sees the desires of your heart, but he also sees the bigger picture, the calling on your life, the purpose he has ordained for you. Rest in knowing that his plan for you is good, even when the waiting feels long. The wounds of our past can weigh heavily on our hearts, shaping how we see ourselves and those around us. Many of us have endured betrayal, heartbreak, and hardships that have left scars not easily erased. To protect ourselves from further pain, we build walls, barriers that shield us from harm, but also keep love at a distance. These walls might make us feel safe, but they also keep us isolated, unable to receive the connection our hearts truly desire. But God doesn't want us living behind walls. He wants to heal what's broken and restore what was lost. Healing isn't an instant process. It's a journey that requires time, patience, and faith. The Bible reminds us that God's grace is sufficient, that his power is made perfect in our weakness. That means even when the pain feels unbearable, God's grace is working in you, renewing your heart and strengthening your spirit. This season of solitude isn't punishment. It's God tending to your soul like a garden, nurturing the soil and pulling out the weeds of past hurt so something new can grow. Though the past may have left its mark, it doesn't define your future. When the time is right, the love God brings into your life won't be built on fear or insecurity, but on healing, wholeness, and his divine purpose. Trust him to restore you. Let him work in those broken places. Don't rush the process or try to fill the void with relationships that can't satisfy. God is doing a deeper work, preparing you for connections that will reflect his love, patient, kind, and enduring. A greater love is on the way, but first, let God heal the wounds that have kept you bound. There's a reason for your solitude, a purpose behind this quiet season you're walking through. When God calls someone to a higher purpose, He often sets them apart. He removes distractions, noise, and unnecessary ties so He can shape them, mold them, and prepare them for something far greater than they could imagine. You aren't forgotten or being punished. You're being refined. The Bible promises that God knows the plans He has for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Even in your solitude, God is working. He's strengthening you, deepening your faith, teaching you to walk in His purpose. This time alone isn't wasted. It's essential. Before God places you where He wants you to be, He ensures you're ready to carry the calling He has placed on your life. Think of a sculptor at work, carefully chiseling away at a rough stone. Every strike of the hammer removes what's unnecessary, revealing the beauty hidden beneath. That's what God is doing in this season. The shaping may be uncomfortable, even painful at times, but it isn't without purpose. What God is forming in you now will be the foundation for what He's about to do through you. Trust Him, even in the quiet, for He's preparing you for something far greater than you can see. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading Israel. David tended sheep alone in fields before becoming king. Jesus Himself spent time in solitude before beginning His ministry. Your time of aloneness isn't an accident or punishment. It's preparation for your purpose. God isn't withholding good things. He's preparing you to receive them in their fullness when the time is right. There's something about you that sets you apart. The depth of your soul, the wisdom God has given you, the spiritual awareness you carry. These qualities aren't something everyone can understand. When you walk closely with the Lord, when you see beyond the surface of life, it can be unsettling to those who aren't ready for such depth. That's why chosen ones often find themselves walking a lonely road. The Bible reminds us that while a person may have many companions, there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. You weren't made for shallow connections. You long for something deeper, something real. You desire relationships built not on convenience or fleeting emotions, but on truth, faith, and purpose. That kind of connection is rare, and it cannot be rushed. But don't mistake this waiting for abandonment. God isn't withholding from you. He's protecting you. He's ensuring that when the right people come, they'll honor the calling He has placed on your life. In time, God will bring those who truly understand you, people who share your vision and your heart for His kingdom. When that happens, you'll realize that every season of solitude was preparing you for something far greater. You were never meant to walk with the crowd. You were meant to walk with purpose. So trust God's timing, knowing He's leading you toward relationships that will be rich in faith, strong in truth, and unshakable in love. The depth of your soul requires connections of equal depth, and these aren't found every day. Be patient. Stay faithful. Continue developing the gifts God has given you. Pour yourself into your relationship with Him. In doing so, you're preparing yourself for the divine connections that are coming. God sees you. He understands the longing of your heart. And in His perfect timing, He will satisfy that longing with relationships that reflect His perfect love. Remember, when God sets you apart, there will be seasons of solitude. But don't let loneliness discourage you. It isn't a sign of rejection. It's a season of preparation. Every moment of silence, every feeling of isolation is an opportunity to draw nearer to God. He isn't distant from you. He's working in you, shaping you for the purpose He has ordained. The Bible declares that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. If your heart feels heavy today, know that He is right beside you, molding you for something greater. This isn't a time to despair, but a time to grow. Let God heal the wounds of your past, refine your character, and fill you with His wisdom. He's preparing you for relationships that won't drain you, but uplift you. In His perfect time, He'll bring people into your life who will cherish your heart, honor your faith, and walk with you in purpose. Stand firm. Hold on to His promises. The season you're in isn't the end of your story. It's only the beginning of something far greater than you can imagine. This isn't a time to despair, but a time to grow. Let God heal the wounds of your past, refine your character, and fill you with His wisdom. He's preparing you for relationships that won't drain you, but uplift you. In His perfect time, He'll bring people into your life who will cherish your heart, honor your faith, and walk with you in purpose. Stand firm. Hold on to His promises. The season you're in isn't the end of your story. It's only the beginning of something far greater than you can imagine.